Well, we saw Bill Belichick win his first ACC game on the road. Now he gets his first ACC win at home. Although at times here, Brian, it didn't feel that way. There was a lot more boos for a lot of this game than cheers because the offense really struggled. But a win is a win, they tell me. And this one was 20-15, Carolina beating Stanford. What's your biggest takeaway?
My takeaway is that this defense travels. I mean, this defense has 19 sacks over the last 3 games, including 9 in this game. 3 by Tyler Thompson, 3 by Melkart Abujabade. Oh, that's terrible. That's not even close. 2 from Andrew Simpson. The defense forced 2 turnovers that led directly to 6 points. So that's the takeaway, that this defense is for real. That's 4 games in a row where the defense has played really well. But the offense just continues to not be able to get out of its way, maybe until the second half. And that's what happened against Syracuse. That's what happened here. Thankfully for the Tar Heels, the offense did a little bit, did enough to get them this win, because you can't just rely on a defense to shut down everybody for the entire game. And we saw that at the end. Stanford able to score 2 late touchdowns. So thankfully for the Tar Heels, once again, they had a little bit of a cushion.
47 yards of total offense in the first half for Carolina. What was it, like 250 for the entire game?
Yeah, their 3rd lowest output of the year. And I mean, 250, that's nothing. Like, in college football, teams are putting up 500, 600 yards. 250 is absolutely nothing.
It's funny because you got Bill Belichick versus Frank Reich in this one, who people remember played the 2018 Super Bowl against each other, an absolute shootout between the Eagles and Patriots. This was the complete opposite. It felt like a game that either coach was content winning 10-9. And kind of what I'm trying to parse here, Brian, is giving Carolina credit for the improvement. You mentioned the defense. That is certainly the hallmark right now for winning 2 games in a row, but then also trying to parse that with the fact that last week you beat a Syracuse team that was playing a walk-on lacrosse playing quarterback and has been listless since their quarterback got hurt after beating Clemson. And then you beat a Stanford team that is statistically 14th in the ACC in defense and is the worst offensive team in the conference. UNC just one better than them. So it's just trying to figure that out, like what I can really give them credit for, because it's still a lot left to be desired. When you brought Bill Belichick in here, like, being excited about beating the worst teams in the ACC is not what you hired him for.
Well, that's who's on the schedule. A couple of things. One, these were the 2 worst offenses in the ACC by all statistics, and so you expected a 10-9 game. We also saw a Philly special. You want to talk about You want to talk about that Super Bowl? Stanford, on one of their 2-point conversion plays, ran a Philly special. Looked like the quarterback was open. The wide receiver held the ball, didn't actually get the 2-point conversion, or else this game might have gotten really interesting. Yeah. But my takeaway is this team is getting better. They need 2 wins in their final 3 games against Wake Forest, Duke, and NC State to get bowl eligible. And if you said that when Bill Belichick was hired in December, you would have said that's a miserable season. If you would have said that after the Clemson game, when this team looked like it couldn't beat anyone the rest of the season, you'd say, well, that's not too bad. So, I think it depends what your expectation level was and when that expectation level was set. I think making a bowl game is pivotally important for this team. The extra practices, the extra time that Belichick gets to work with these guys, I think is critically important, maybe more important for this team than any other team in the country. Just given how much better they've gotten and how that practice seems to be working, I think it's really important that they reach a bowl game. Plus, Mac Brown 2.0 reached a bowl game in every one of his 6 seasons. Mm-hmm. So if you don't reach a bowl game, it really feels like you're taking a step back.
I want to get into Belichick's extended press conference. I want to get into the offensive problems, Gio Lopez specifically. But before we move into all that, let's go a little bit deeper on the defense here, because you mentioned Melkart Abujade and Tyler Thompson, the other emergence on this team. 9 sacks in this game. You said it was, 19 over the last 3 weeks?
Yeah, Tyler Thompson has 7 over the last 4 weeks. Melkart has 9 on the season, the most for any player for the Tar Heels already since 2013. I mean, the D-line is doing work.
And you think about what Belichick said in the press conference, one thing that stood out to you and to me was what they could have done earlier in the season. And I think it's twofold. It's really interesting that he would admit that, because, you are Bill Belichick. You signed these players, you brought them in here, you're known for getting the best out of them. you didn't, and you put yourself in such a deep hole that they're still clawing themselves out of. Like, I don't know whether to like give him credit for saying that and like realizing that they had things that they could do that they didn't know. I mean, I guess that's like football to a certain standpoint. And I think like just overall, the theme with Belichick's first season here is learning curve.
Right.
And it's whether you believe that he could get over that learning curve next season. And then next season they can take some big leap because they're still not even at the Mac Brown baseline yet.
Yeah, I think, first, Bill Belichick at his press conference was done taking questions. They said, okay, last question. And Bill Belichick himself said, I have a little bit more time. I'll take some more questions. And gave really insightful answers. Yeah. Insightful answers about what those Sunday night football practices that me and you have both reported on mean and why they're so important. But also this answer about, if we knew then what we know now, we would have done some things differently. I think with personnel is what he means. And I think part of that is you brought in 70 new players. You didn't get as much practice time as maybe you would have in the NFL, where you can work them all summer, where you get those 2-a-days. They had to really put this thing together quickly. And you get the sense, and you can just look at the participation chart. They are making moves. Their guys are moving up and down the depth chart. And it really seems like this coaching staff needed more time than it got to figure out what they had. Figure out what they had schematically, figure out what they had personnel-wise. Again, you can blame that on the coaching staff and the personnel team, or you can look at it glass half full and say Belichick and company are figuring it out now. On the other hand, you look at the offense and say, even next year, this offense is going to have to change, going to have to get better.
Gio Lopez, right? I mean, nice kid. Credit to him for just dealing with everything he's dealt with this season. Cards were stacked against him. Comes in after the spring. He's coming in from South Alabama, asked to play at this level under this amount of spotlight and scrutiny. I know him and his family were really excited about the opportunity. Who wouldn't be at the beginning of the season? And he's taken a lot of the brunt of the criticism, and a lot of it, I think, is warranted. And I thought it was interesting that Belichick just continues to insist upon that he gives them the best chance to win. And it's hard for me to sit here and agree with that, because we've seen Max Johnson come into the game, and I didn't have any expectations for Max Johnson coming off that gruesome leg injury. I personally really didn't think he'd ever play again, and that he was just kind of coming back just to come back to ride out his eligibility. Obviously, the kid loves playing football, but we saw him play in the Clemson game. We saw him score a touchdown in the TCU game, and all Gio Lopez is really giving you is short dink and dunk. The only way the offense really succeeds is we had a broken play with Jordan Shipp, and I think it was a broken play. Jordan Shipp touchdown against Syracuse as well. It's running back screens, it's hitch patterns and short routes that I think Max Johnson could certainly do, if not some of these younger quarterbacks, Altora Newkirk or Bryce Baker. So I'm just kind of puzzled at how short of an answer he gave you, that he truly believes Gio Lopez gives them the best chance to win, because I've talked to some sources around the program, within the program, that are also puzzled about this. And I don't think we're the only ones.
Yeah, Bill seems very committed to Gio Lopez. I asked him, have you ever thought about going to Max Johnson in any of these games? And the fact that you haven't indicates you think Gio gives you something. What is it that you think Gio gives you? And he said, I think he gives me the best chance to win the game. He did make a couple of nice throws. The wheel route to Davion Goss for the touchdown was a very good throw, well covered. The pass to Jordan Shipp, that was a broken play, was a zero blitz. That means everybody's coming, man coverage out there. He threw that ball before Shipp even reached the top of his route, and then Shipp did most of the work, let's be honest, getting it to the end zone. But that's a good read by a quarterback. I think he still struggles, Gio does, when he has to go right instead of going left, and he's a left-handed quarterback. He fumbled again today. Just too many turnovers for a team that's reliant on its defense. You can't put the defense in a bad spot with turnovers, and Gio has too many. But, let's give him a little bit of credit. These second halves, he does seem to play better. Jordan Shipp talked about him just being a fighter, all the things he's had to go through. We reported that he was in a car accident before the season, a couple days before the TCU game. He missed practice after the injury against TCU. He certainly missed the Clemson game. He came after spring. I just don't know if he's gotten enough practice to do all the things that a Belichick offense requires you to do. But Belichick thinks he gives you the best chance to win, and so that's why you keep seeing him out there.
Yeah, it's starting to rain on us, so we'll wrap this one up here pretty quick. Carolina ends the season here with the gauntlet of in-state football at Wake Forest, home versus Duke, at NC State. And I look around the stadium here, Brian. I think how he finishes is key for. I think we both think that unless some other big shoe drops or there's a big smoky gun that gets reported, that Belichick will be back for a second season. But you look around the building today, there was no buzz to begin this game. People felt like they were just kind of hanging out on a very nice weather afternoon, as it is raining now. And then people were leaving the game with a lot of time left to play. And next thing you know, like Stanford could have won this game, and people have already left. And like I said earlier in our taping here, I heard a lot more boos for large stretches of this game than I did cheers. So I just wonder, how much are people still invested in this Bill Belichick model going forward, and how key how they finish is to just kind of build that momentum. I know they have a good recruiting class next season, but so much of this hire was about the revenue, the ticket sales, the buzz, and they don't really have much of it now despite winning 2 games in a row.
Yeah, this place was as empty as it's been all season at the start of the game. We've seen it empty out at other times, especially against Clemson. I went to the pregame concert. It felt like a very small crowd there, especially when you compare it to Ludacris. Now, that might not be fair to Fitz and the Tantrums, but the Ludacris crowd was hyped. It was ready for that Clemson game, and I think that took a lot of air out of the balloon. I do think if you can beat NC State, if you can beat Duke, it may have a galvanizing effect on this team and on the program. I would say one last thing. Answers like Bill gave today, I think, are helpful. They show like some insight into the program, which he hasn't always been willing to give. And I think fans want to see a little more emotion out of him.
Yeah.
He's very detached on the sidelines. And look, I'm not going to question his sideline demeanor, because he's won more football games than I'll ever win. But, he got out there and was getting into the refs a little bit. And I had some text messages from friends who were in the stands who said, like, that's the most emotion I've seen out of him at all. And so I think that's something that fans want to see as well.
It's about to start pouring on us. The skies are opening up. Hopefully more brighter days ahead here for the Tar Heels. For Brian Murphy, I'm Pat Welter. This has been Triangle and Two.